Hey everyone, good to see you again on my 27th vlog around sexuality. I'm nervous and excited to share this topic with you, because especially this week or maybe a few weeks I came across this topic around sexuality, and I really saw how important it was for myself but also for others to share around this. And last full moon I held a women's circle, and with this women's circle I also had the same topic, sexuality. And when we individually shared around our relation to sexuality and what we would like to see differently, I really saw how important it is to start sharing around this topic, this hidden topic actually. There were so many things coming up, especially around the women with each other, not generalizing men, but like, what is our relationship to sexuality and what is my desire? So when I shared this, like my relation to sexuality, also in my 10th vlog, I tell you about the fact that I wait with sex and why I do this. So if you're interested, go and have a look at my 10th video, because I do have the longing for intimacy and sexuality. However, I feel like there is a fine line in between going for a one-night stand or not, and I expressed this several times. This is not really my thing. However, I do have desires, and to go along with these desires and having men touching me and not touching me, or you see, I am a little bit struggling here because it's a very sensitive topic for me also to talk openly around what it is that I desire. And what I said was like, I do want to have intimacy, and I do want to be touched, and I do want to experience sexuality. But what I also experienced these weeks is that when I be touched by someone, that sometimes I freeze and I feel like I don't want to, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, but this touch is nice. Like, why can't I enjoy it? But somewhere inside my body, I hear a no. And what makes it so hard that I can't express this no? What makes it so hard to set a boundary around this? And it's especially because of the mindfuck of like, oh, but I do want to be touched and I enjoy being touched. And at the same time, I feel no towards maybe the person or in the moment, and I notice that I start judging the situation instead of feeling into myself, like, and then listening to that no, because there's also a deep desire to be touched. And the funny thing is like, okay, when is it a yes and when is it a no? And when I held this circle with the woman, it came across that it was not only my topic, that it's hard to express boundaries, and that we as women have a tendency maybe to use sexuality to manipulate or to gain love in return for sex, or we use sex to get certain things done. And I also heard within relationships that when we have difficulties within the relationship, that we use sex to get closer to each other, which is beautiful, but also like, oh, I don't want the other person to ignore me, I'm using sex. And I really believe that I'm holding a woman circle again this Tuesday, so tomorrow, where we mix the woman and the men circles together, and we bring those two worlds together to have a better understanding of what is going on. Like, the women who have difficulties setting their boundaries, men maybe have difficulties receiving these boundaries, but I think in essence it's all about the rejection we feel, or the fear that we reject someone, or the fear that we get rejected when we set this boundary. And I believe that at the other side, for the man, it also feels around rejection. So how do we deal with this? How does this work? How do these two worlds come together, and how can we have a better understanding of each other? And I realized also this week, like, when I'm interested in a man and the intimacy, like it starts somewhere, I get scared. And I can really feel the fear around men who wants to, like predators, like, want to jump on me. And I should see this as a compliment, but my whole body just freezes and I don't know what to do anymore. And at the same time, I feel like I want to be intimate, but I don't know how to be playful in this moment. And I also, besides the trauma I'm carrying from my childhood, I start to see more and more why I attract unavailable men. Because available men are interested, and I notice that I become scared that when they come close, what do they want from me? And unavailable men are easygoing, and I can have the time to slowly open up. However, it's opening up towards the wrong person. And then the trauma starts that I want to be seen by this person, and then it's related to my childhood again. So around setting boundaries and having desires at the same time, I understand that you need to know your desires to also know your boundaries. This is something a woman in our circle came up with, and I was like, this is so profound. We need to know what we desire to be able to let go of something that isn't serving us. So how do we do that? Like, how do I do that? And I start to see, like, of course I do long for intimacy and sexuality, but when my body says no, I have to listen. No matter if I'm scared and I shouldn't be scared, no matter if whatever. Like, and this is with everything in life. When our intuition and our body is telling us no, then we shouldn't do it. And even though we might be evolving in the future in a different way, and then we could say yes, but in this moment we have to listen to what is there and accept what is there. And for me, it was very clear that when I feel a yes, or like a calm in my body to say yes to someone, that I can go along with it. But whenever I feel a no, that I shouldn't. The hardest part is just how to set your boundaries. And when I'm very clear with my boundaries, like as I said, in the 10th vlog I shared around the fact that I wait with sex. And I still do this because this gives me the feeling, well, it's maybe a form of control, but I just don't want to share my body with someone who I'm not gonna spend more time with. I can enjoy other ways, but I don't want to share my body just randomly anymore, no matter how pleasant it is. There's so many ways, especially if you go into Tantra, there's so many ways to enjoy without a certain goal in mind, that I really learned that this is not the most important thing. And when the right person is there and I feel an aligned yes, then I will do it. But up until that moment, I won't. And maybe, yeah, for some people it's easier than for me, maybe. But yeah, the expression of saying no for me in this part is easy. But when someone is touching me and I'm like, actually, like, I like it, but I don't want it. How do I just simple say, like, thank you, but I don't want it? I don't know, how do you deal with this? Like, how do you deal with this? Do you say, no, I don't want it, or thank you, or please don't touch me? Or when it's actually someone you know, or is friendly, or it's like such a fine line. And I wonder what goes on in the other person as well. It's really messing me up a little bit. Like, I have desires for intimacy, and at the same time I can feel no, and it's hard to say no. So what my teaching for this week was really like listening to my intuition and really listen. When it's an aligned yes between my body, mind and soul, then it's a yes. And when these three are not aligned, or maybe even more, when these are not aligned, I can feel a no inside, even though my body longs for it and like moves with it. If there's somewhere a no, I shouldn't go with it. Not there, yeah. Enough said, I guess. So knowing our desires makes it easier to set boundaries. What is it that we desire? That's a really important one for me as well. Like, how do we want to be touched? And if we don't want to be touched in a certain way, then it's easier to say like, thank you. I prefer this and this way, or maybe this is nice, or this is nice. And by practicing no more often in a kind way, I believe that it makes it easier to say no. And also by practicing to express our desires. This is something which is really profound in the Tantra scene. To say, what is it? What are your boundaries? What are your desires? Where can you be touched and where not? But this is a practice field. How do we do this in daily life? How do we say like, oh, I love your touch, but I like it better this way? Do we ever express it? Like, I've never learned up until like 2 years ago to say like, oh, I like it when you touch me like this. And maybe some women have more ease with this. I didn't. I just enjoyed the moment, but never actually said like, oh, really? If you want to make me then please touch me here and there. So practicing with this is really important for me, like to say, what is it that I desire? And also to listen to this desire of the other person. It makes it more like transactional interchange, but it's not. It's really beautiful to see like, oh, I would be very happy if you just stroke my hair, or like go through my hair or my neck or anything, and leave it that way. Because intimacy can be sexual, but can be sensual, or can be just intimate. It doesn't necessarily have to evolve into something else. So I will continue on this, especially because I have a men and women circle tomorrow, and I would love to share not about exactly what they were talking about, but how we can merge these two worlds. Because as a woman, we maybe feel objectified, used. Why do men always want this, this and that? And men could think like, why are women like always like this, this and that? But I really want to see how can we bring those worlds together, and how can we have a better understanding of each individual situation. And because we all carry stories with us, all carry traumas with us. And if we have a better understanding and share open and vulnerably towards each other what our past is, to create this understanding, I believe that we will create a more beautiful world with each other and have more joy and playfulness with each other as well. So thank you for watching. I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week, and I wish you a magical day. With love.